That's exactly right. Coincided with in 2012 is when that third kid came along and we went from man to zone defense. I'm still good at what I do, I'm just not a war duty anymore, which is fine. I've seen a lot of changes. I started March 27th, 2007. I've been at the Small Business Development Center for 13 years now. And if you think about all the changes that we've seen in 13 years, they've hit small business owners quite a bit. Thinking of just the ways we interact and talk with each other. I mean, my gosh, now I've got this space-age phone in my pocket that allow the Russians and my wife to track me, but in 07 I had like this brick phone and I was going to a flip phone and I couldn't talk to anybody too long because it was $8 a minute. You'd have to decide how much you liked them. Or even at that point we were moving from MySpace to Facebook. MySpace, was just virtually good for telling people what you do now that you graduated. Facebook's had its up and downs. We went to Instagram, and now it's TikTok. Y'all use TikTok? Mm-hmm. You use TikTok, right? Ray does not use. You can just skip it, Ray. If there's something new coming tomorrow, it'll be Flim Flam or Boo Boo or I almost said Jib Jab, but that's a thing. Somebody took that as a real name. Even the way you do your QuickBooks, those of you who actually use QuickBooks, which should be most or all of you that own a business, it went from like this clunky thing on your desktop. Remember those desktop monitors that took up half your desk and you had to have a friend to help you move it? And now it's moved away from that big overweight thing to a new, prettier trophy database in the cloud somewhere. Now it doesn't talk to that anymore. It's just, everything has changed quite a bit. Even in my household, where I went from it just being me and the wife and the dog to now I have enough people I can come into this gym and play a pickup 5-on-5 basketball game. So thinking about all of the things that's changed, one thing hasn't changed, and that is that most people still cannot get the name of the TSBDC correct, which is fair because it's a big jumble of consonants that if you were to use on the Wheel of Fortune would solve half the puzzle with no vowels. So those of you still listening, who in here, show of hands, has ever heard of the Tennessee Small Business Development Center? All right, so a lot of people that have heard about it, people that don't want me to talk about it, but I'm going to anyways. So this will be a refresher for hopefully a lot of you. What we do is really simple yet very effective. Free one-on-one small business counseling for anybody that owns a business or wants to start a business. And we also have low cost or in a lot of cases free training for those same small business owners. Now when I say free, normally folks smile and nod along, but they think it's there's a catch. I still think of free when I get those, remember those CDs you could get in the mail, you could get 12 of them for a penny? And then they would just keep sending you new ones every month for $20. I got like 3 of Elton John's greatest hits before I could get that thing canceled. I think I had to convince them I died. The way ours is free, half of it comes from the Small Business Administration, who is funded by the federal government, which is funded by, doggone right, you and, that's right, all right, you and about half the world, great. The other half, I will go out to the small business community and raise funds, city government, county government, chambers, banks, people that want to see small business owners grow and succeed. I am housed at Ball State. They put in a couple of bucks, but mostly they just give me a space to hang out and do my work in. And the only thing we ask in return is for folks to fill out the occasional email or survey. So if I work with Chris and Chris goes out and grows his business, invests capital, hires somebody, he replies, I put it into a confidential report that looks a lot like this, and I take it to all of the people that I raise money from and say, hey look, we have real economic impact. We met with people. We also had folks come to workshops, and most importantly, we actually know that we created jobs, got capital invested, even helped a few folks get started, which seems like a pretty good deal, and most folks are willing to do that, but they kind of forget about me sometimes. Like I turned into that nerd in high school that helped the cheerleader pass the algebra exam. But now we're at prom and I'm waving at her, she don't see me. I'm waving and I don't want to dance, I just want her to answer an email so I can put it in a report. That's the only catch, it's pretty simple stuff. And in looking at all of this, there are a few common characteristics that cause small business owners to get tripped up. And you've heard the survey and the stats, anywhere between 50%, 70% of startups fail in the first 5 years, and we try to really work on figuring out what causes those to happen. So what I put together this morning, quick down and dirty, about 9 different things that causes that to happen. And I even created a small case study that we're gonna go through real quick, and then we'll go back and figure out what happened. So, decided to create Amy's Catering here. She's got her a couple of employees, life is good, everybody knows her. She has a lot of clients, she serves them well. Well, her first big issue is a lack of planning. Most folks mistake daydreaming, thinking, talking, praying with actual planning. She wants a food truck but hasn't actually went through the process of figuring out what I need to do. Putting pen to paper. Most small business owners kind of fail to do that. Next is a lack of experience, and I'm going to really harp on this in a minute. We think experience always equals knowledge. It is not the case. And she's got experience making a taco bar, but not necessarily handling the office side of the business. She started off without enough money to get the business rocking and rolling. She had just enough to get going, but it wasn't enough to keep her sustained, which caused cash flow issues. Even if your business gets paid right away every time you render a product or service, it does not mean you will not have cash flow issues. Next, she does not check out her competition. When she does, she gets upset. Reggie's got steaks, Wanda over here is great at gumbo, and it just makes Amy upset because she doesn't have a real way to set herself apart. But she does do some marketing when she can, when she's not so busy. She'll market, make some money, but what happens when she makes money? Gets busy. Gets busy, what she do? Well, it's marketing. What do you think puts her on a hamster wheel? So now she'll just turn right around and rinse and repeat this process and start marketing again. And it just goes up and down forever. She doesn't like delegating because she knows that if she does it all, it will be done correctly. And that's all areas of her business, which makes her very tired and very frustrated. And then when she finally makes a few bucks, she decides it's time to upgrade. So she goes from a ranch style house over here to 12 Stones and buys a Tesla, but she's not ready to yet. And last but not least, which is the saddest, and I see this happen quite a bit, is where somebody gets some real success, they're not quite prepped, planned, they don't have the experience, they don't have the delegation, and they outgrow themselves, and that happens, and it's sad. You see somebody that's booming, and one day they just close up shop. And the reason is they had unexpected growth. So let's backtrack. First and foremost is a lack of planning. Now, I have a lot of small business owners, after years of being open, they'll come see me in January. January is the time, and everybody always asks me, so are y'all busy right now? And I think everybody thinks I'm tied to the economy. People come see me regardless. It just changes what they come to see me about. If life is good, they want to get bigger. If life is bad, they want to figure out why. It doesn't really change the number of people that come to see me, but the lack of planning has always been an issue. And I'll ask people, what is your goal? And almost always I get these kind of long, pretty, but generic answers of, we just want to grow as much as we can, make as much money as we can, and all these other fun items that you can't put a pin to. It's the time of year where you can really sit down and plan. Take a day off. I take a half day off. Put pen to paper. Use a whiteboard. A lot of the great business owners I've worked with, several are in here today, that they will do that. They will have a mini planning retreat. I use the analogy of like vacation. Did any of y'all go on vacation this past year? Anybody got a nice one planned up? Some of you going anywhere, right? Is it a secret? Where are you going? Good Lord. Ray's going on a Mediterranean cruise. Dude, that's awesome. How long is that going to be? 7 days. Are you planning it or is somebody else planning it? Yeah, he's not planning it. His wife's planning it. And I'll bet even though it's a cruise, and a cruise is a good example because they do everything for you on a cruise. You just show up, you just go wherever they tell you. I love a cruise. They don't have to think. They lock my phone away. It's awesome. But people still do a lot of planning for a cruise. A few years back, my wife decided, we want to go to Disney, but not like the last time where we had to stay off the resort. So we had to go to Disney. I'm talking about we were that family. Y'all can't really see. My little boy up front has like a Photoshopped green thing on his head, but it fell into the green shirt, but that's fine. Look, Disney for 7 days is awesome, but it's for 7 days. Couldn't tell my wife that. She had Excel spreadsheets laid out. They were color-coded. For those of you that understand, they had VLOOKUPs and pivot tables. They were regarding what we were going to do, when we were going to do, all the different color-coded shirts that I wore that said Dad. She had done more planning for that 7-day Disney trip than a lot of the people I work with do for their livelihood. You need to plan. A lack of experience, and this is one I always find so frustrating. People will tell me, and they will tell the customers, we've been open for 15 years. We have 15 years of experience. Have any of you ever had a manager at your job that had decades of experience but still might not have been very good at what they did? And that's why a few of you probably went out and started your own business. That's an area where you have to identify, these are the things I'm not good at. I made a plan, this is the goal, but I've got to get better at what this is. I want to be a $1 million business, but I don't have $1 million habits just yet. So I need to build up my experience outside of just what I normally do. For years, I worked, 13 years ago, I worked at ServPro. Y'all heard of ServPro, Fire and Water Cleanup Company. So I live in the Sumner County side of things, which means it's a requirement to go work at ServPro at some point. So I got my 5 years out of the way and I worked there. And I worked in the training department and we would debrief who's coming. And if we had, these are brand new franchises, folks from all different walks of life, that was great. But if we ever had somebody coming through the door that had experience, it wasn't that much fun because they already knew it all. And they know this is the way we do it. So you have to look through the experience that you feel like you have and start focusing in other areas. I see this quite a bit with parenting. People get really obnoxious with parenting. And I can say that now that I've got a house full of kids, so I can be obnoxious too. And they say, well, especially when you get to, and excuse me, grandparent level, well, we raised you and you're not an axe murderer. And I don't know why that's the threshold. Boomers just really thought if they didn't raise axe murderers, they were killing it. They did no good. So I know, but there's 7 billion people on the earth and the stork brought 0 of them. So there's not everybody's doing it just because you got experience. Now, insufficient capital is something that bites somebody when they initially start. If they start off undercapitalized, they almost never recover from it. They need the cash in the bank, almost a rainy day fund, that allows you to buy more equipment, that allows you to hire your next person, that allows you to grow your business that you planned on previously with. And unfortunately, too many people don't have that, and they're in a position where they get behind. And once they get behind, they get into poor cash flow management. And this, like I said, can happen to businesses that get paid upon receipt each and every time. A lot of businesses that we have here might have to account for accounts receivable, pest control, landscaping. You might have to collect after the fact. Had a guy, and since all of my folks are confidential, we won't mention his name, and he's out of county, so. Had a business for 3 years now, frustrated, wants me to tell him what he is doing wrong. I have payments that come in, and as soon as they come in, they go right back out the door to pay for everything. He blamed his customers, because his customers would pay a down payment, a deposit, but they may not come back for another 3 months for the rest of their product. And he would blame them because after he got paid, he would use that money to pay off the line of credit that he already owed, and then when they came back through, he would have to dig out of his quote-unquote own pocket to do the rest of their job. Didn't understand that he had a cash flow issue. In order to get through the cash flow issue, you literally have to sit down and figure out where the holes are, plug them to the best of your ability, sit out, don't do some stuff, and then build that cash flow in a painful way. Y'all recognize this guy? Y'all feel free to shout his name out. Sam Walton. Regardless of what you think of Walmart at this point, I don't like going in there, but don't tell anybody that, they'll get mad at me. If you ever heard about how he got started, it wasn't just with a super Walmart in Bentonville, Arkansas. He started up in Missouri, moved down south, and he had a 5 and dime shop on the square in Bentonville. If you could picture each one of these tables as its own little 5 and dime shop all around the place, a little country store. He would take really sophisticated equipment. He would take pen and paper, and he would go into each and every little store. I don't want to try this now, Chris, somebody might punch you. But he would go into their stores, and he would look at what was on the shelf. What did they put on the end cap? How much was Colgate priced out for? He would make minor adjustments where he could beat them on some price, and he knew what he could get away with charging higher in others. And he did it, and he did it, and he did it for years. Even as he grew the thing and it became this monstrosity known as Walmart. Even as he retired, he would drive his family crazy. He would take them all over the country in his little plane, because he was, when you're a billionaire, there was some kind of requirement you get your own plane and pilot's license, and he would fly. I don't know how he fly, but he would fly them, and he would take them on vacation, and he would still take a pen and paper, go into Sears and Target and make notes. And we have access to something good old Sam didn't have most of his life. What is that? Internet. World Wide Web. How neat. Now, folks, all the time look for these sophisticated research tools. Just use Google. Your competition is online. Figure out what makes you different. If you cannot explain what is the difference between you and the competition, then you can't tell the customer what's the difference between you and the competition. And do they have a reason to use you if you're the same as the competition? No. So it's up to you to differentiate yourself in a way, and it doesn't have to be based on the lowest price or highest quality. Nobody can really do that at a small business level. There's always a big box store or a big outfit that can put our lights out, but it can be something different. You need some type of continued innovation. I always use Little Caesars as a bit of an example. It's not to pick on Little Caesars, but when you think of them, what do you think of? $5 hot and ready. And it's a good, it's not top shelf, but it's hot and ready. And that's their niche. That's what they do. And I know it's supposed to be pronounced niche, but I was born and raised in Middle Tennessee. I say niche. And then not consistently marketing. One of my very first clients. Let me tell you, 13 years I got a database it's built from scratch. I had 5,000 people in there. Client number 4, I remember, came to see me out of the gate, had a window covering business. And the window covering business was starting during the Great Recession. That's a tough business. And the client was almost in tears. He said, you know, I've got to get this thing off the ground. My husband has a full-time job. He hates it. He works 60 hours a week. If I can get this off the ground, he can join me and life will be good. I said, great. Nikki, in her name, I'm pointing at Nikki. Nikki's pretending to be the client. I said, Nikki, tell me what you've done. Nikki says, well, you won't believe it, but I've tried what? Everything. And then she named off like 15 things she'd done once. Well, nothing works once. I mean, that's like saying, I want to get into shape for, pool season. I'm going to go do 20 push-ups. Well, it didn't work. I'll try something else. She tried everything once. Luckily, about 4 of the things she tried once was exactly what I was going to tell her. So go back and do those 7 to 12 more times. She got that tear and said, thanks anyways. And she left. And she did not do any of those things. You have to market consistently. We could have, and I have had, entire presentations revolve strictly around marketing. There's right ways and wrong ways, but consistency beats pretty all day long. Repeat after me if you know the answer. If you want something done right, you got to do it. All right, that's right. Except it's not. It's totally wrong. Don't do it yourself. Or you'll be working 80 hours a week, 5 years in, and you'll all have a haircut like me, and you'll be very upset. Delegate, folks. We're at a point now where it's easier to delegate than ever. There are all kinds of tasks that you do routinely that can either be automated by an online tool or somebody somewhere else, even in this part of the country or somewhere else, can do for $5 an hour, $10 an hour, or whatever it is. Take a look at what you're doing throughout the course of a day, and if you have bottlenecks, most likely the bottleneck is you. If you are unable to produce what you want, it's because you haven't delegated the task. You want to be a perfectionist, perfect the process, perfect the system. Break it, tweak it, retweak it, whether it's marketing, management, financial, and then delegate it to somebody else. And make no mistake, they won't do it right, or they won't do it like you do it, which is fine, but they will get it done. Train and retrain, but the more you can delegate, the more you'll free yourself up to run the business instead of be in the business. And this is a book that I've recommended 1,000 times, but if you don't get anything else out of this, read The E-Myth, or rather The E-Myth Revisited, written by Michael Gerber, about that same thought, that same process. Delegate. Personal use of business funds. Do not buy that diamond-encrusted iPad yet. A lot of small business owners get what Dave Ramsey calls doc-itis. Y'all ever heard of doc-itis, or what he refers to there? So a doctor, they go to school. How long do they go to school? Like 8 years, right? And then it's 4 years of residency? I hope that's right, because I've been watching Grey's Anatomy for 17 years, and that's what they told me. After 12 years of the grunt work, work in paying out, who knows, hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, they finally start getting real paychecks. Not all of them, but stereotypically, what do you think a few of them do with those first few checks? What's that? Doggone right. Me and Nikki's friends now. BMW. They don't necessarily pay down the debt just yet, and then they get caught in that cycle and they can never get caught up. Small business owners do the same thing. They get tired. Been grinding away at this thing for 3 years. We're finally at break even, made a few bucks. We're not necessarily reinvesting in the business. I'm not going to Disney this year. We're going on a Mediterranean cruise with Brad. And I'm glad my wife isn't here. And last but not least is the unexpected growth. Y'all remember Tommy Boy? That's your second homework. Actually, scratch that. Make your first homework. Tommy Boy. Go back and rewatch. It was so good. And remember, he does a fat guy in a little coat. You'll see when he turns around, he's cheating because it's already ripped in the back. And I just noticed it when I downloaded this GIF. Look at that spin. Oh. It was David Spade's coat, and then he just ripped it. We do that in our business sometimes because we didn't plan, we never got more experience, we didn't delegate, and now it's time to grow. And it's exciting because the economy, despite the coronavirus or whatever other hiccups we got, we're in pretty good shape, right? So if it's time to grow my business, if I haven't gotten the line of credit I needed before, if I didn't delegate, or if I don't have the right people, or if I don't put the right plans in place as I bring these customers on, I can outgrow my business, and this can happen to a variety of different businesses. I can overwork my employees and they'll quit. And unemployment right now is 0. There's nobody out there, they're all working or doing something. So I upset my customer because nobody's helping them. I can't do it because I'm already overworked and I refuse to delegate, and then people quit coming to see me, and then life is bad, and then I retreat and get small again. So this happens. These are 9 things I've seen really cause hiccups, but there's a fix for all of them. Again, that's why we exist at the TSBDC. So if you'll grab a business card before you leave today, write down the website, go to Ball State's website, or just Google Small Business Development Center, you will find us. And we have a whole host of workshops coming up geared toward helping small business owners grow and succeed. I have a guest speaker coming in next week to talk a little bit about HR and how to find people and keep them. I've got somebody that comes in and teach QuickBooks. I have somebody that comes in and teach social media. I even though I'm not award-worthy anymore, I even teach a few workshops myself on a variety of topics. Folks, that's all I've got for you today. I'm going to catch Mary Lee before she runs off, and thank you very much.